I'm Martin Jarvis, and once again I want to welcome you to Listen. Today we're going to talk about black people. What else is new? This is Listen, the urban program. This is all we're always talking about, black people and our perspective, how we view things, how things affect us, a sensible way of looking things, and how we can be better, okay? And so we're going to talk about some things today. You know, I was having a conversation at work with this white guy, real intelligent white guy. He's like a far-right Republican, and I'm not political at all. I look at both political parties and I get to give my opinion, my assessment of them, and I don't really see them any different. As I was telling this guy, look, I see two wealthy old white guys that want to be running things. They want the power. That's the way I see it. I felt the same way when Trump was running against Hillary. You know, that's what I saw, and that's the way I see it. Even when I saw Obama running against Hillary. What I saw, and against McCain, I saw a rich white person running against a rich black person. Not so rich black person. But they both just wanted to be in power. Now, I'm not saying... Now, when I looked at McCain and Obama, they seemed to be guys that really cared for their country and the people and wanted to do something good. I have to admit that. But when I see these two guys, it's like, you know, especially as a black man, you know, in America, when I'm watching Biden and Trump, it's like me watching two white guys box. You know? Whoever wins, it'll be interesting, right? Okay, so I do want to assuage the fears. First of all, I want to talk about some things today, but what I want to suggest is that black people have no business calling themselves Democrat or Republicans in this nation. Now, I'm not saying don't vote. I'm just saying it is very important to keep a clear understanding of what exactly we're in the middle of right here. Okay? Now here we go, my opinion. In my opinion, that if we had been more clear, we wouldn't be suffering still through some of the racial issues that we're suffering today. Okay? See, we have every election, you know, both parties courting black people, you know, trying to prove that they're the best for black people. But what I'm suggesting is if either of these parties or the people that consider themselves Republicans or Democrats really cared about black people, I mean, come on, emancipation was in 1865. There shouldn't even be a hint or even a smell or a taste of any kind of racism or negativity toward people, you know, toward any people in this nation. And the fact that there is simply reflects that white folks in this nation have no incentive to make it any better for black folks. Look, when white folks were suffering in Europe, they fled to come to America, and they even fought against the British and died, and even recruited a lot of black folks to die too, and died in the battle for their equality. So you see, when white people are oppressed of being unequal, they will fight to the death. But we'll sit in here in this nation and be complacent about the inequality of people who are not white in this nation. So the reason we are not well is because we've let them off the hook. Okay, let a party recognize their fallibility. Let them recognize their weakness without black people, without the black vote. You know, for years, you know, black social leaders were trying to tell black people not to spend their money, you know, in white places, and it would have had a devastating effect on most white businesses. We saw that with the Montgomery boycott, the bus boycott, you know, where they stopped taking the buses. The buses were going out of business. And then they went ahead and acquiesced. Okay, you can sit anywhere you want on the bus. I mean, that was a reality because there is power that black folks have. And just to recognize that, it's the same in the voting booth. They want your vote because they want to be in power. But if we would strategically utilize the value that they see in us during election time, they wouldn't be taking this for granted. But anyway, that being said, this is where we're at. So I'm just suggesting until there is total equality, we're not really part of the political process. We're just being solicited for our vote, used, promised stuff, you know, almost like a just promised, given promises that never really come to fruition. Recognize that, okay? So, and we could be clear that no matter who wins the election, we're going to be fine. Pretty much, America's going to be fine. Because politicians are promising the world, and when they promise outlandish or outstanding things that have never been that happened before, they're probably not going to happen if they get elected. Okay, they're just saying whatever they can say to win the election. To recognize we're not life isn't going to change. I remember this guy, you know, before the last election, you know, between Biden and I think I mentioned this in the last program, but it's so funny, between Biden and Trump. He's a business owner, a machine shop, really cool guy and everything. We were having a long conversation. He was literally beginning to cry because he believed that if Biden won, we would become a communist nation. Come on, man. No! Because there have been Democrat presidents, there have been Republican presidents. We survived. I was in the military in the 70s under Gerald Ford and Jimmy Carter. Republican, Democrat. We were fine. And I've been you know, working ever since then under Democrat, under Republican presidents, and we've been fine. You know, now you might have a presidential contender that you kind of just gets on your nerves by everything he says, and that's why you don't want him to win. I understand that. But the reality and the consolation that I'm giving you is no matter who wins, we're all going to be fine. Look, poor people that are on welfare and social type services and all, they're still going to be on those welfare rolls. Social Security is actually welfare, nothing else. Nobody put into Social Security. So welfare, people on welfare will still be on welfare. People that are wealthy, of course, they're still going to be wealthy, you know. And people that are middle class and that are just working, you know, like I am, life goes on. So none of us are really going to be affected regardless of who's president. One or two of them might just really, yeah, I think what we have today, as far as presidential contenders, we have one that might just piss you off, the stuff he says, but then you have another that might be embarrassing. And then vice versa, okay? So those are the issues that we have. They're just the emotional issues we have because, you know, like you have somebody like, you know, like your mother might show up to school wearing rollers in her hair, a bathrobe, and slippers or something. Mine never did that, but how embarrassing that would be. It didn't hurt you, but it was embarrassing. So that's what we have. We got these two guys, these two old guys that are just running against each other. And I heard this joke today. I just heard it today one time. I hope I get it right. So we had you had President Biden and you had Trump and you had McConnell going in for a cognitive test to see this specialist, you know, and said, okay, we're going to give you this test. So he goes to McConnell first. And he says, okay, McConnell, what is 3 times 3? And McConnell says, 272. And the guy says, wrong, you flunked the test. Then he goes to Trump. He says, Mr. Trump, what's 3 times 3? And Trump says, blue. You flunked the test. Then he goes to President Biden, and he says, President Biden, what is 3 times 3? And President Biden says, 9. And the tester says, great, you're right. You know, that's exactly right. How did you come to that number? And he said, well, I just subtracted 272 from blue and I got 9. That's kind of funny. But anyway, let's get back to the serious stuff. We don't have anything to worry about, no matter who wins. We might be mad, we might be angry, we might have other emotions going on, but really none of these guys can hurt us, okay? They can embarrass us, but they can't hurt us. Now I want to talk to black people about being black people. Because this guy I had a conversation with at work, I mean, he got heated. They always want to talk to me about politics. I tell them from the start I'm not political, but I will tell you what I see, okay? And so we're talking about the black people, about which party is doing the best for the black people. And then talking about which people are committing more crimes. Okay, so you know where this guy's coming from, right? It's a white guy I'm talking to. And so we were having a long conversation. I enjoy having these conversations because, you know, I just share with them what evidently in their circle of acquaintances nobody is saying, okay? And I remember this one guy at this business I was at, maybe before the Biden-Trump election results, and he wanted to talk about illegal immigrants, you know, or something like that. That's what he said, or immigrants and all that. And he said, "Are you sure you're not going to get mad?" I said, "Are you sure you're not going to get mad?" By the time we were done, he was mad, okay? It's just that reality, because for me, I'm a black man in America. And I came up in the 70s as a young man, as a teenager, as a military man, as a man in the 70s, okay? And so I've seen a lot of stuff, and I've experienced a lot of stuff, okay? And so I know what I've experienced, okay? And that is the foundation of my opinion. I wasn't in a closed room, you know, I was reading all the books. Malcolm X was my hero, Angela Davis, Huey P. Newton, Eldridge Cleaver, Kathleen Cleaver, Juan Karenga. You know, these people were Stokely Carmichael, of course. You know, these were my heroes. And so I did a lot of reading. Of course, James Baldwin's writings, but he really wasn't relevant in my mind from where I was as a teenager, okay? And as well, I began to look at historical situations involving the United States, to come to recognize that Fidel Castro was a hero, and that we were the antagonist. JFK and the mafia, Meyer Lansky, who had opened up casinos and were making a lot of money at killing in Cuba while the people were suffering. Fidel Castro was an attorney at the time. In Cuba, he was living a middle-class lifestyle, but he gave up that lifestyle to revolt against the government, the Batista government. Batista had been a sergeant in the Cuban military that the United States had propped up as a puppet leader so we could use the nation for whatever we could get from them. And so, you know, when Batista was overthrown, we had a lot of Cubans that came to America, and you say a lot of their children today have been really anti-Castro. Some of my favorite actors and even singers, I won't mention their names, and some congressmen, because their parents fled Cuba. Well, guess what? Their parents were the ones benefiting from the Batista government. Those were the people that were living large while the majority of the Cuban population was suffering. So I take their criticisms of even Fidel with a grain of salt, because they were the ones living large at the expense of the Cubans that were suffering. Okay. So that's pretty much the reality. So this is what I saw, you know, as a young person, that I really wasn't seeing the United States as well as the world as most of the teachers in our school systems were trying to get us to believe. You know, I knew at an early age that the Alamo was a criminal organization. For real. And so most folks didn't understand that, but that's what I understand. So as a black man in America, I come from a different reality. So when I'm dealing with these people, see, these people are not really educated. Even the white people that are you know, might be pro this or pro that. You know, if you want to have a discussion with me, I'm going to share things with you, knowledge that you are not aware of, that's really going to tick you off. It's just the reality. That's why the best voters for corrupt politicians are uneducated. Are uneducated, folks, because they'll believe whatever you tell them as long as you tug on those emotional strings. And so no, I don't fall for that kind of stuff. We need to recognize then that there is no political party that is going to do anything for black people. Period. Because if they were really set on doing anything for black people wouldn't need them to do anything for black people, because we'd already be well. It's a trick, all right? Neither party. They're just going to tell you that, just so you can be satisfied. It's sort of like playing the lottery. You know, you sit there, man, I'm going to win, I'm going to win. And, you know, living a hopeless life. But it's like from the time you play that lottery number until that number is pulled, you have hope. and the number is pulled and your hopes are dashed. And even on the few and very rare occasions that you might win a few bucks here and there, it's not really enough to change your life. Life still remains the same. You might get to buy a steak that day, but your life hasn't changed, and neither is the life of your children. You're still in that situation. But you've given yourself at least a little hope, from the time you buy that lottery ticket to the time when it's pulled and you lose or you win something meager that doesn't really change your life. And that's what voting is. That's why they court black people so strongly. Like maybe a half a year before the election or a year before the election, start coming into the neighborhood and talking to you because they're trying to get that hope revved up within you. And then once it's done, it's just done. Because we would not still be in this same position if they were legit about really doing anything for black people. And so then somehow the conversation got to black people, committing more crimes. I'm like, no, that's not true. White people commit more crimes than black people. Look at the stats. And he was arguing that. So, you went to the FBI list, and see, even those numbers aren't good. If I showed him, the numbers of white people that commit crimes compared to the numbers of black people that commit crimes. It has to be more because there are more white people, okay? So there are just more crimes committed by these white people. But even when you look at the FBI numbers, see, all you're looking at people that have been convicted of these crimes. But when you have a corrupt judicial system that has been systematically and institutionally racist and abusive to black people, those numbers are skewed. Because there are white people that are getting away with murder, and there are black people who are not getting away with murder. We know that. We know the judicial system is an institution of racism that has been anti-black from its inception. But even the numbers that the FBI produces still shows that the greatest perpetrators of crime are white people in this nation. Notwithstanding the fact that those numbers are skewed, against black people. Okay, so that was kind of interesting. And so then the guy came up, he wanted to talk, percentages. When you look at the black population is only 14% of the U.S. population, then percentage-wise, more black people are committing. I don't care about percentage-wise. I mean, when I'm paying my taxes, they're not assessing me based on the percentage I am of the population. No, I am a part of this nation, and I'm assessed like everybody else at my income level. It doesn't matter what percentage of the demographic, of all that kind of stuff. No numbers. So how many people are committing crimes? Who's the perpetrator of most of the crimes in this nation? And same with the welfare system. Who's using the welfare system more than any other group in this nation? Don't tell me percentage of a demographic. Tell me numbers. You're not taking a percentage of my money. You're taking a certain number of dollars out of my check. So what are the numbers of people who are benefiting on social programs as a result of my money? More white people. So, this is important for us to know because we can walk around with a very low self-image because we are believing a lot of the lies and things that have been told about us. That's been the systematic way in which we've been held down, is just believing the lies. We need to stop believing the lies. Don't believe that you're worse than this, because we hear that. You hear that when it comes to your kids. You tell your kid you're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid. Eventually they're going to believe they're stupid. You tell them this, you're a criminal, you're a criminal, you're a criminal, you're more criminal than anybody else. Eventually you're going to be that. You're going to live up to that expectation. So we need to be labeling ourselves as something that we actually are, which is not what they've labeled us. You're going to come back at percentages just because you don't want to face the fact that more of you are doing this than anybody else in not only in this nation but on this planet. Come on, we dropped bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. What other people on this planet have done anything to that extent? No one. Come on now. We are not the criminals. We have believed that we were, and we've been trying to live up to that label, but that's not us. And now let me take it, so you understand that, right? Let me take it from another direction. Because I want this program to be totally freeing for you today. So what we've discovered is you're not the worst in this nation. White people are. That's a simple reality. And it's not a shot against white people. Some of my best friends are white people. I know some good white people. I really do. I'm just suggesting that black folks are not the culprits of the crime in this nation. Man, I was looking at, I was reading this book, just look, like John F. Kennedy. Very wealthy family, the Kennedy family. One of the wealthiest families on earth at the time. Why? Because their grandfather was a bootlegger and made all this money in crime. That's why it was so easy for John F. Kennedy, even as the president, to hook up with the mafia, Meyer Lansky, and begin exploiting Cuba with nightclubs and casinos, because that's in his blood. His daddy was a criminal, the Vanderbilts. These are wonderful, respected names. These were criminal. This was a criminal railroad organization that broke all the rules. Rockefeller, he was a criminal. Who else was a criminal? That's why even when we're looking at Donald Trump, I mean, in his defense, the long legacy of successful businessmen who we revere today were criminals. So if he's broken some laws, it's only because he felt it was okay, because all the guys we revere since then broke laws just like that. They just didn't get caught. Like Enron, Bernie Madoff. The key is, if you're a businessman, and this will the nation, if you get away with it, history will look back at you in reverence. Okay? It's sort of like even the founding of this nation. Come on now, on genocide of Native Americans and of enslavement of Africans, terrible, heinous, you're talking about murders and tortures and rapes, untold scores of thousands upon thousands. But tack a couple hundred years onto it, and now that we're civilized, oh, this is one of the most respected nations on the planet. Because it doesn't matter anymore how it was founded, but it does. It does to the offspring, who were the footstools of all that mess, who bore the brunt of all the mess and all the perpetrated illness and atrocities that was perpetrated upon folks. It is for us. Come on now. So this is, here we go on and on with this. I look at black people having generational PTSD. Even this gentleman I was having a discussion with, you know, most of us where I work are veterans, and he's an Army veteran, 20-year veteran, deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan, places like that. And so he understands the concept of PTSD. They really do. We do in America. And so what we do is we give them counseling, we'll give you drugs, we'll give you money, we'll give you free education, computers, and you know, all the stuff you need. Preferences here, preferences there. But he doesn't seem to be able to conceive, and most of us can't conceive, the generational PTSD from the atrocities that were perpetrated upon black people from our inception in this nation, and never having been dealt with. Imagine families and communities of black people all suffering from a heinous, atrocious PTSD, which our military veterans can't even fathom the extent of. And then them having kids, going through the same atrocities, PTSDs, multiplied exponentially by generations upon generations to what we have today. So we might be reverencing this nation, you know, because it's a wonderful nation and all, but consider the history of it. Just like the history of those politicians, and the history of the businessmen that committed crimes to get to where they were, and now they're wealthy. Was it worth it? Well, to them it was. To them it was. But I want to close with one more thing here. And when I say close, this might be about 15 minutes or so. But I want to talk about you today. The black man, the black woman, the black person. Who are you? Now I'm talking to me right now because I've always considered myself a black man versus white people. But when you consider this, when this guy was trying to give me these numbers of all the black people that have committed crimes, and even the percentages from the demographics, how can you do that? How can you even come up with any kind of study or any kind of statistics and numbers of black people without defining what a black person is? For real. Now for me personally, my grandfather, my mother's father, is Mexican. Came here to the States illegally back around 1920 or so. My great-grandmother was a white Irish woman from the Isle of Man. So my great-grandmother is a white Irish woman. My grandfather was Mexican. When we did the DNA sample, the DNA thing, I turn out I'm 47% African, 47% black African. And my daughter is like 60% because her mother was like 80-something%. So now anytime my daughter gets in trouble, or she used to laugh and say, why is it because I'm black? but that's a reality, seriously. So from a scientific perspective, I'm 47% black African. So does that mean I'm a black person? Okay, so when you're talking about these numbers and these stats and these percentages of black people, are you including me in that? How are you including me in that when I'm some 47% black African? And when you look across this nation, we are all black people, what we've called black people, all our lives are varying tones, varying shades of black, from the lightest, you know, like, what's her face? Who was that woman that Fred Sanford was always in love with? The singer. But I mean, just saying, from the lightest, you know, we all have friends, from the lightest black person that you know to the darkest black person you know, and all the shades and tones in between. It's because there are very few of us that aren't mixed with something in this nation. So how are you classifying everyone that just has some black blood in them as being black, and then creating these numbers, these percentages, and these statistics? You can't. Unless you're going to consider each skin tone a separate category of individual, you can't say everybody that has a touch of black blood in them is black. And you don't know how much any of us, man, I got this piece from my white Irish great-grandmother. I got this piece from a Mexican. Just about every black person I know has the blood of some other type people, you know, in their lineage. So we have bought into this black thing to allow them to classify us. And what I'm suggesting is that's so when you talk about who's created the most crime in this nation, it's not just white folks, even when you look at the numbers of black versus white, but then you consider who is black, very small portions of whatever we are, a tremendous number, outnumbering any other group exponentially in this nation, are white folks that have committed crimes. Because there is no such thing as a black person that is not full-blooded black, as you can take this white person who's full-blooded white. I had this conversation with this guy in Ireland about a couple days ago, because there was a black woman from Nigeria. She had settled, I think she had been living in Hungary, and she had settled in Ireland. And she had Irish citizenship now. And some of the Irish were saying, well, she's not truly Irish, you know, and going through all this stuff, you know, for obvious reasons. And the reality is that Irish is a nationality. If you're an Irish citizen, you're Irish. Doesn't matter what your personal feelings are. The reality is, to be Irish is to be in the nation of Ireland. And if you go back historically, like an anthropological search, you're going to find out the original Irish were black folks. But that's another story, you know, for another time. But so I'm just sharing with you that we need to really consider what we've bought into as far as even allowing us to be classified as black. Because all they've done is they've taken the white, which and you know how they view themselves, and then they say everybody else is black that has any bit of black blood in them. I would suggest this: the next time you're filling out an application for anything, if you want me to check black, you're going to have to actually define black scientifically, because I don't even know what that means anymore. What is black? At what level of mixed heritage am I not black? And what am I? And so this is not anything negative against us. This is, come on. You're calling yourself white, and you are white because you have all these mixtures of white. That's what I was telling that Irish guy. Look, should I, no, forget that. And so I'm just suggesting that we have a lot of thinking to do. Well, we have to be considering how we're going to progress forward. We have to recognize that the labels that they have placed on us and the expectations, the low expectations or the negative expectations that they have placed on us, we have bought into. And so what we are doing then is that we are self-destructing. Man, black people are the most black people. Now, black people in a positive way. Black people like me, that may be 40%, but I claim that part of me as me, okay? See there, if you're using black for their statistics, it's not going to be working for you. But if you're using black for your unity among others who have been oppressed, who look like you somewhat and can identify with you and can strengthen you and you can strengthen them, then embrace that black. Don't embrace the black to allow yourself to be labeled and demonized and categorized in statistics that they're presenting because they're flawed. But embrace the blackness as far as your unity, as far as your strength, as far as your I don't want to say anti-white, but recognizing who you're up against to give you strength to persevere, okay? That's when you embrace the blackness for the positiveness, even though you don't know what percentage you are, that's who you choose. But don't let them choose it for you to create statistics that are detrimental to you and to your well-being. We look through historically in this nation, the strength that the Africans have that were brought to this nation, even as their blood was beginning to be thinned and mixed and melded, with other folks in this nation. We've always been strong. The fact that you can survive slavery for a couple hundred years and Jim Crow and persecution and continued atrocities and injustice all the way up to today, 400 plus years later, shows you the strength of these people. Any other people would have been gone, would have no longer existed, but we're still here. As well, you see through that historical line, you see the work that was done, and we survived under inhuman conditions. You see the music that we perfected that no one can even come close to. Even these country and western folks ragging on Beyonce, ignoring the fact that we invented that music. Even theirs, we invented it. We invented the country and western, which is a child of the blues, And so the music we have perfected. The sports, undoubtedly, what would sports be in America without black people? Pretty boring. So we've perfected that. And then you go into the politics. We've done that with the mayors and the governors, and we've got the military. Come on, the Red Tails, they weren't the only ones. We had warriors all over through World War II. We had them in Algeria. We had them in Europe. We had them in we had black people fought everywhere. The Red Tails were simply the ones they discovered. The Red Tails were when those bombers, when we see the interviews where the bombers were insisting that the Red Tails escort him and nobody else, those bombers didn't know the Red Tails were black. They didn't know the Red Tails were black until a plane went down in Italy, which way they had those black folks all stationed out there so nobody would see them. But a plane went down, some black folks went, picked them up, took them back to the base. That's when they discovered the red tails were black. It was a big secret. So were all the other fighting forces of black men all throughout World War II. Come on now, do you really think that black folks would have fought in the Revolutionary War? Black folks fought in the Civil War. Black folks fought in the Spanish-American War. Black folks fought in World War I. Black folks, and then all of a sudden World War II came around, and now no, black folks are only in servitude positions. Now that was a lie. That was a lie, because during the persecution of black people in this nation, they didn't want to send that black and white newsreel footage of black people actually fighting with white folks, liberating parts of Europe and Asia and Africa, wherever else they were. And I was talking to this old brother, this old black man. He was about 78, 80 years old in the neighborhood. This was probably about 20 years ago. He's probably gone now. But he was telling me, he said, he was talking about the war. He was saying, when you look at those black and white newsreel footages and you don't see any black people. I said, yeah, of course. He said, well, we were there. We were right there next to those white people. They just wouldn't film us. And as he was telling me this story, he began weeping. He wasn't just shedding a tear. This old black man was crying. It had hurt him so bad and stayed with him all of his life like that. No, man, we have perfected the fighting, we have perfected the military, and then the politics, of course. We had President Obama, was like, there were only been 40-some presidents in the United States at all, but they were all white. So even the white supremacists, those people that thought they were special, could walk around believing that, there was something that a black man hadn't done. But then Obama came on the scene. I don't care whether he was in the Democratic primaries debating with Democrats, or he was debating with the Republican hopefuls, their contender and all. He dwarfed them intellectually, conversing with them. And everybody saw it. We all saw it. We all knew it. That's why they were trying. Well, he wasn't born here. Oh, he's a Muslim. He hates it. Coming up with all the Jeremiah Wright. Oh man, they thought they had some. They were trying anything they could because they knew they couldn't beat him intellectually. They never could. 2 terms. Come on now. And so what I'm suggesting is, at that point, especially when the presidency was no longer a place, that sacred place that no black man had ever been, these white folks had some reckoning to do. They had to come to, when Obama became president, man, there were people crying. There were white folks crying, there were black folks crying. Black folks crying because it was amazing. We couldn't even believe something like this was going to happen. Nobody could. White folks were crying because they had to face the fact that there was nobody on this planet that they're better than. And most of them, they had to admit who was better than Obama. They can rag, oh, he's a divider. They can come up with stuff like that. But they had to face the fact that they were better than no one. This is the first time in this nation's history that white folks had to admit that they were better than no one. And that's why Make America Great Again. Try to go back before we've had to realize it. But you can't turn back the clock's hands of time. You can't turn back history. But whatever Make America Great Again was, just make America to that place where you didn't feel like you were not better than anyone. But that can never happen again. Because if you really look at that phrase, Make America Great Again, ask all these people running around chanting that and wearing those little red hats, when was America great for you? Really? And so this is the time when folks calling themselves Republicans, folks calling themselves Democrats can come together and consider what I'm about to tell you right now. Is that we've just been used and manipulated by the politicians. All of us. Come on now. So I know a lot of people, now check this out. Historically, black people, we want to start doing stuff like white people do. Most black people don't have the money saved up. Most black people don't have this, don't have that. Well, the reality is most white folks don't either. That's why a lot of them are protesting when you say they're privileged, because they're like, I don't feel privileged. Because the reality is most white people in this country are poor. Most white people in this country are addicted to alcohol or drugs. Most white people in this country are on welfare of one sort or another, even Social Security, which is also welfare. Most white people in this nation have their marriages, their families have been broken up. Most white people in this nation, they hate their jobs. Now all this has to do with black people too. But it's not. But we're all in this same boat. But these wealthy millionaire and billionaire politicians are going to foment the division between all of these suffering people and say, no, and demonize the other. The white folks are going to demonize the black folks. Black folks are going to demonize the white folks. In reality, the only demons are those politicians. I'm not saying don't vote. I'm just saying be wise. Be knowledgeable. Understand what's really going on. You know, during the Black Power movement, you know, the Black Panthers for Self-Defense and all, Huey P. Newton and those guys, they joined forces with the West Virginia coal miners. You know, people you would hardly think would be hooked up with these brothers, you know, wearing their black jackets and their berets and stuff. But they were. Why? Because they realized that this was not a racial issue. It was an economic issue between them and us. Right? We need to realize that. Yeah, I know it's going to be hard, because we've been brainwashed. Look, historically, as you go back historically over thousands of years, the wars that have been fought forever, they've always been fought pitting peasant against peasant. They died by the millions. And the rich leadership just got richer. We're still doing that. We're doing that here. Come on both sides. Come on, send more money. Send more. Both sides are doing that. And they got more money than the people they're soliciting money from. These wealthy folks are soliciting money from the Democrat and the Republican peasants. And they're way wealthier than we are. But show me a leader that will give all of their money to the cause, to where they're as poor as we are, and then okay, you're committed, you're for real. But they're not. These guys have millions upon millions of dollars. Their kids, their grandkids, all their kids are going to the best schools, the best colleges. And they're asking the peasants for more money. They'd make good preachers now. I'm a preacher. I'm just saying, okay. We just need to be aware of that. Okay, now so we got that. That's enough ranting. Let me share something else with you. I guess this is a three-part video. This is the last part. How to become well. Now, what we don't do as black people, we don't provide generational wealth that will follow us after we die. But neither do white people. We used to think that they did. They don't. Most white people are poor. Most black people are poor. The wealthy people, black and white, leave generational wealth to their children. Okay? So this is not a racial thing. This is an economic thing. And so what I'm telling you is we need to do that. And see, this is where I've been. You know, you remember I was growing that beard when I turned 65 back in November of 2023. And then I decided I wasn't going to shave or cut my hair. It was symbolizing for me a journey, that I would be on a journey of discovery. I have 30 years on the job. I'll be 66 this year. What's the next phase of my life going to be? And I came up, with some things that I needed to accomplish. In February, I woke up in the morning and I thought the journey was going to take me to April, but in February I knew, and I shaved and I cut off. And so there's like a three-pronged thing that I'm trying to do here. One thing, I decided to write some books, and I did. I wrote, there are 65 books on Amazon that I placed up there that I created from February 12th up until about last week. That's what I did. And it was just something I felt I needed to do. I wanted to write some books. And then I thought, I've been on the air now for like 20 years, okay? Well, my daughter, her first month of existence was when I put my first program on the air, so that was 19 years ago. And so I have all of the programs that I've done on hard drives. I mean, we used to do those programs on VCRs. That's how far back this goes. We'd record them on VCRs. We'd record them on DVDs, and for the recent couple of years, we do them on the, those little, we do files. So they're like video files, the MPEG, MPG2 type files, and that's why it's pretty clear. But I had all of my messages, all of my video programs, all on DVDs, on files, and everywhere. And so I decided that I was going to publish those, and publish them though in written form. So what I found this AI program called Cockatoo AI, which will transcribe word for word a video or audio that you have. So what I did was I took my videos and I copied them, I made them into audio files so it wouldn't take up much space. And then I fed that audio file into Cockatoo AI, and it just spit out the entire program written. And so to me, it's like an essay. So then I went to AI and I said, okay, AI, this is what I wrote, rewrite this university level, get all the punctuation right, and all that stuff, just fix it. And it fixed it. And that was my essay. And then I went ahead and did like a interpretation of the essay, an analysis of the essay, a life application for the reader essay. Man, this was a big job. And the last thing I put, I have steps for, self-assessment questions, for the reader and all. And so that's an essay. And I had 200 of them, okay? Man, this was a job. And so out of the 200, so what I was able to do was I was able to create 13 paperbacks. And so each paperback has like 15 or 16 essays, okay? And they're on Amazon. So if you Google, if you put in an Amazon search, Another Perspective, Martin Jarvis, man, they're just all on there. Okay. So I had the 13 paperbacks. And I have like Another Perspective. Then I have a name of it, kind of what the essays kind of resemble. And then I turned all those paperbacks into ebooks. Okay, so then there are 26. So I have the 13 paperbacks and 13 ebooks. And then I took those and I created little ebooks. So I would have ebooks with just like 5 or 6. Essays in each one, with all those other categories like life assessment, blah, blah, blah. And so that made 39 of those, 39 and 20. So I have 65 books on Amazon. Now I already had about 8 books that I had written, a few years back. But that was my project. That was what I woke up, I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to put something out there that would outlive me. Now, I plan on living a long time, don't get me wrong. That's why I exercise, that's why I eat right. But I wanted something that would outlive me. Almost, when we talk about generational wealth, well, like one of my sad points, I mentioned my Mexican grandfather. Well, since he was an illegal immigrant, he never let anybody take his picture. So I have no idea what he looked like. I have no idea what he thought, the kind of thoughts he would have, anything. I have nothing. It's really frustrating. So I've made sure that my grandkids, great-grandkids, forever, they're always going to have Martin. That they can read the books. And the funniest thing was, since I put them all on Amazon, this was a tedious process because I had to go through, making sure all the spelling was right, the cross checks and all that stuff, man. And then I'd have it read it back to me to see if it sounded right. It was a process. But since I uploaded, I published them all on Kindle, and they're on Amazon, live, ready. That algorithm in the search engines on Google, I guess, was affected because now if you put in the search engine on Google, Another Perspective, Martin Jarvis, everything kicks out. So these books on Amazon, they all kick out. The videos, all the stuff on YouTube, the programs I put on YouTube, which I've taken programs off of the air here from cable and put them on YouTube and Facebook. My Facebook pages come up. I have a professional website, Another Perspective, Martin Jarvis with no spaces.com. That comes up. Everything, man, I'm all over the place. And now I don't have to do anything else. That was one of the things I wanted to do, and that's what I've done. And so we're talking about generational wealth. there is as well a wealth of knowledge and insight and understanding, you know, because I seek to have knowledge and understand things for real. And that's what I try to present on this program here. And now I've been able to take all that knowledge, some of it's spiritual, some of it's secular, some of it's urban, and all in paperbacks, all in ebooks. It's out there from generations and generations that follow me. They'll have access, they'll know, you know, what I was all about. They might get tired of me after a while. I don't know. I mean, that was one thing I wanted to do, the books. And so now it's done. That took me from February 12th to about June 12th. It took me 4 months. And that's every morning getting up at 4:30 in the morning, drinking two mugs of coffee and 2 waters, working this thing, and then going to work. And as many of you know, I work out every morning, and I try to eat right. I continue to eat right, but through that 4 months, I didn't work out. Not much. I gained about 4 pounds, but I started back working out yesterday. I'm knocking them off. Okay, so that was the thing. That was the one thing that it's done now, so I don't even have to tend to it, because if people order a book, the books print once they're ordered. So, and then whatever royalties, they just come to my bank account. So I don't have to do anything. And what I'm sharing with you, this is the financial part, is black people living generational wealth. We have to find some way. Generational wealth. Another thing that I've done, so that's generational wealth for real. I don't know how much that's going to pay, but at least the knowledge, generational knowledge, I'll be able to pass down generation to generation. Second thing I did was I decided to get into the investments. I don't mean day trading or anything like that, but I mean be focused on like the long-term investments, I think they're ETFs or something, those index funds, okay? Now I have a 401k and I have an IRA, my wife has the same things, but you know, and I have retirement. I've been with the company 30 years, and Social Security, I'll be 66 this year, so I'm close to that. I mean, but I've always worked on simply making sure that I was going to be well in my retirement years. I never really thought about generational wealth for my children and their children and their children. So like I'm doing with the knowledge with those books, passing it down, passing it down, passing it down. Because knowledge is wealth, we know that. But anyway, so I decided to start working on this thing. So I've gotten into the stock market, not day trading. I got some friends doing that. They're kind of crazy. You ask me. I don't want to be involved. I want to be involved in this, kind of like with those books. I don't have to really be involved. I want to do that. So I found some like the S&P 500. So I'm keeping my 401k going over here, you know, through work and everything. But now I'm actually doing and picking myself certain things like the S&P 500. I also pick like an international index fund, and that's doing well. I do have a couple of things that, you know, a couple of years ago I thought I'd get into the investments, and I just put some money on a weed company, and I put some money on this company that creates the electrical charging points for electric cars. You know, they're not even doing well. I just got rid of that one recently. Now the weed company, I have like 22 shares of this stock, and it is like almost nothing. It's going down to about $2 a share, and so I've lost a lot of money on that. And now I think it's only worth about $50 or $60, 22 shares. So I want to go ahead and get rid of it and just apply that to something else, but then I'm thinking in the back of my mind, what if one day it blows up, you know? So I got 22 shares of this, and it's not worth much. I'd rather just end up being zero than going ahead and cashing that in and then it blow up. I think I'd rather deal with the fact of just losing 60 bucks than have to be considering how I made a bad deal and lost a whole bunch of money. But anyway, the point is, I'm working on something now to leave generational wealth. So I'm putting money in like every payday in these things. And I have a couple other little stock picks, you know, that I'm trying out, as well, that seem to be okay. As well, my 19-year-old daughter, I got her into the S&P 500. Now I'm kind of monitoring it and making sure it goes down, but just to make sure something goes in there every month. Then when she gets older, like graduates college, I want her, wherever she begins to working, start a 401k, but maintain this, and generational wealth. I had to tell her the other day, I said, look, I'm doing this because when I say generational wealth, I'm not just trying to create money just so you could spend. What I am creating, I want you to do the same thing and create for your kids. I want your kids to create, and every generation after me to create. Not just one generation waiting there. Come on, I've seen that in the hood, being the mailman for all those years. You know, so somebody died, leave their kids the house, and about a year or two later they lose that. That's not what I'm trying to do. I want to change the economic trajectory of the Jarvises that come from my lineage to be wealthy for the rest of their lives. Not because white people do it, because most white people are poor too, but simply because this is the right thing to do. I believe there's a biblical verse that says something about parents should leave an inheritance for their children to the second and third generation. I understand that now, because every parent in those generations needs to leave an inheritance to the second and third generation. That means it will never end. And the other thing, I'm trying to get back into the little real estate business. You know, I got a little rental property from back in the day, buying bank-owned properties. I'd like to try that again. So I'm putting my hand at that. It's not as easy nowadays, but the point is just finding something to be able to make something out of. And now I want to meddle as I'm getting ready to close out of here. Now look. We have self-destructive tendencies, self-destructive habits that are going to keep us from accomplishing anything, okay? When I used to have those same habits too, when I was 28 years old, I had that epiphany. I decided I'm going to stop. I stopped getting that buzz. I stopped drinking alcohol. I stopped going to the clubs. I just stopped all that stuff that night. I'll be 66 this year. I was 28 then. You know how much money I've saved? Changing my lifestyle. You already know. You think about how much money you've spent all of your life going out, partying, getting high, getting that buzz, alcohol, whatever. And the food, the junk food you eat after that buzz because you got that buzz. That's a lot of money. Imagine if you had been invested in it way back then. I try not to think too much about that. It's a reality. Now what I've done, I've wasted a lot of time. Because that whole investment concept is that whole compounding money. That's the key. And the longer you do it, the more money, the exponential money that's going to be growing from it. And for me, by the time you hit like 30 years old, you've lost the potential to make you still have the potential to make money. But man, it could have been amazingly, astoundingly large amount of money. So me starting this right now, at like 65 years old, I mean, that's why I'm really trying harder and putting more money into it, encouraging my children, because I've wasted a whole lot of time. But the thing is, you know, I've been eating right, I've been exercising for like the past 20 years, and I believe I've added 20 years to my life, so at least I'll have another extra 20 years. I don't care if I'm old when I'm experiencing it, that'll be cool too. Anyway, we just need to, I think, just have a whole change of plans. You know, just decide that the lifestyle we're living isn't paying off. And it's not going to pay off in the future. And a lot of the issues and negativities that we have in our life are a result of what was perpetrated upon us. And in the course of 100, 200, 300, 400 years, we just bought into it. We're not supposed to be self-destructive. We're not supposed to be exploiting ourselves. We're not supposed to be exploiting our women, exploiting our children. We're not supposed to be going out and having a whole bunch of children by a bunch of different women. We're not supposed to be disrespecting our own people, disrespecting our own bodies, and just not taking care of our business. All the negative personality and character traits that we have, it's just not supposed to be this way. And what I'm telling you from a guy from personal experience, at any moment, all you have to do is say, this is not going to be me anymore, and that's it. Man, when I had that, like, I want to call it an epiphany, when I had that change of heart when I was 28 years old, I was living at Woodman Park Apartments over on Woodman Avenue. And that was like, I was 28, that was a lot of years ago, and that was almost, 40 years ago. Not quite 40 years ago, 38 years ago. And, man, I got up in the morning, man, and I went through my apartment and I began picking out everything in my apartment that I loved. I had trophies, I had baseball, bowling, karate trophies. I had stuff I had picked up in Korea, chess set, stuff I had picked up in Japan. I had a jazz album collection, switchblade collection. I had plants, I was growing my own. I had all kinds of stuff, man. And I just gathered it all up and took it all to the dumpster that day, threw it all away. And the reason is because at that particular point, when I realized who I was in my life, at that moment, all these things that I thought had defined me, I realized that those were not the definition of me. I let all these things, like the martial arts or the bowling, all these things I was about, define who I was. I determined at that point that I was going to define who I was. Not by the things I had done or the stuff I had experienced in life, but that who do I want to be? And that is the person I became, and that is the person I am now. And it just evolved. Since then, come on now, you know the story. From age 50 to 60, I decided to go to school, got my associate degree, got my bachelor's degree, got my MBA. 63, became a certified scuba diver. I'm in very good health for a 66-year-old guy. So if I never made that change at age 28, I'd never be where I am today. And shoot, so now even when I have extra money back in the day, I'd be blowing it on that buzz. Now I'm investing more and more money, creating that wealth. So I live a comfortable life, but I'm also preparing for a future, not just for me, but for future little Jarvises. I hope I've encouraged you, with my life. That's all I'm trying to do. And I do want to thank you for joining me and listening. And I want to invite you to listen again. You take care.